With the invention of the printing press, mass production of written words became both more economical and more common. While larger books might sell for more money, each page would have to be set up, printed in mass, and later collated, then bound into a volume before a printer could realize a profit. Short printing jobs of single sheets could be sold more quickly from start to finish, and only needed to have one page set up for an entire run. These most common forms of printed material were called broadsides because they were printed the broad direction on a single side of a piece of paper. Ballads were a commonly printed type of broadside. These lyric sheets often detailed stories in comical, fanciful, tragic, or historical themes. Some of them had original tunes, but most of them were meant to be sung to melodies that would have been familiar to many of the common people of the time. Collections of broadside ballads were even printed together into small cheap books or chapbooks for people who wanted them and could afford them, much like modern paperbacks. Today, we may turn on our radios, or more likely our MP3 players, or go to the cloud, and hum, sing, or just bob along with the music that we hear. But long before there were electronic recording and playback devices, there were broadside balladeers trying to sell you the lyrics to their ballads. The familiar melodies and memorable stories of the broadside ballads were the popular music of their day.
Good day, good even, well met. Well, I was a bound apprentice in famous Lincolnshire. Full well I served my master for more than 7 years, till I took up a poaching, as you shall quickly hear. Oh, 'tis my delight on the shiny night of the season of the year. As me and my companions was setting of a snare, 'twas then we spied the gamekeeper, for him we did not care. But we can wrestle and fight, my boys, and jump or anywhere. Oh, 'tis my delight on the shiny night of the season of the year. As me and my companions were setting 4 or 5, and taking of them up again, we caught a hare alive. We caught a hare alive, my boys, then homeward we did steer. Oh, 'tis my delight on the shiny night of the season of the year. Over our shoulder, then we trudged on home. We took him to a neighbor's house, we sold him for a crown. We sold him for a crown, my boys, but I dare not tell you where. Oh, 'tis my delight on the shiny night of the season of the year. Now good luck to every gentleman who lives in Lincolnshire. Good luck to every poacher who wants to steal a hare. Bad luck to every gamekeeper that will not sell his deer. Oh, 'tis my delight on the shiny night of the season of the year. Of the season of the year. Well, that was the Lincolnshire Poacher, or my version of it. It is often listed as a traditional song. However, if you go back in the records, as it were, you will also find it listed as a broadside. It's both. It bridges the gap. Now, broadside means that it was printed on the broad direction on a piece of paper on a printing press to turn a quick coin. Because books, you had to put a lot of labor and a lot of wealth into creating the books far ahead of when you would be able to see any benefit from it if the book sold well. A broadside, however, was just printed like flyers that we have today and was the popular music of its time. So I'm going to take you back with some old broadsides, and I'm going to bring you some newer ones as well. Sir Eglamor was a valiant knight, Fala lanky down dilly, put on his sword and he went to fight. Fala lanky down dilly, and as he rid o'er hill and dale, all armored in his coat of mail. Fa la 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 la, la lanky down dilly. There starts a huge dragon out of its den. Fa-la, lanky down dilly, which had killed I know not how many men. Fa-la, lanky down dilly. When he saw Sir Eglamor, you should have heard how that dragon did roar. Fa-la, la, 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 lanky down dilly. This dragon had a plaguey hard hide. Fa-la, lanky down dilly, which could the sharpest steel abide. Fa-la, lanky down dilly, he could not enter him with his cuts, which vexed the knight to his heart, blood, and guts. Fa-la, la, 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 lanky down dilly. All the trees in the wood did shake. Fa-la, lanky down dilly. Houses did tremble and men did quake. Fa-la, lanky down dilly. The birds betook 'em to their peeping, 'twould have made a man's heart fall to weeping. Fa-la, la, 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 lanky down dilly. Now it was no time to fear. Fa-la, lanky down dilly, for now it was fight dog, fight bear. Fa-la, lanky down dilly. And as the dragon yawning did fall, he thrust his sword down hilt and all. Fa-la, la, 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 lanky down dilly. As the knight in collar did burn, fa-la, lanky down dilly, he owed that dragon a shrewd good turn. Fa-la, lanky down dilly, in at its mouth his sword he sent, the hilt appeared at its fundament. Fa-la, la, 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 lanky down dilly. Then the dragon began to fly. Fa-la, lanky down dilly, into its den which was hard by. Fa-la, lanky down dilly, there he laid him down and roared. The knight was grieved for the loss of his sword. Fa-la, la, 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 lanky down dilly. Now that sword it was a right good blade. Fa-la, lanky down dilly, as ever a Turk or Spaniard made. Fa-la, lanky down dilly, but for my part I do forsake it. He that will fetch it, let him take it. Fa-la, la, 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 lanky down dilly. When all was done, to the alehouse he went. Fa-la, lanky down dilly, and in a trice his 2 pence he spent. Fa-la, lanky down dilly, he was so hot from tugging the dragon, that nudging would quench him but a whole flagon. Fa-la, la, 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 lanky down dilly. Well, now let us pray for the king and queen. Fa-la, lanky down dilly, and eke in London there may be seen. Fa-la, lanky down dilly, as many a knight and as many more, and all as good as Sir Eglamor. Fa-la, la, 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 lanky down dilly. That, of course, was Sir Eglamor, which Shakespeare used as one of his characters in Two Gentlemen of Verona. It allowed Shakespeare to give the audience an individual that they felt they knew and already had background information. We know that Sir Eglamor was a pretty good knight, but when push came to shove, he went to the tavern, which was where they were all singing his song. And that's the way his audiences could also know the story of Pyramus and Thisbe from A Midsummer Night's Dream before they went to see the show, because they were singing about it in the taverns. Or If there was a character that he wanted to show as a bit shady and perhaps lacking morals, he might refer to Tybalt as a Grey Friar, and the Friar and the Nun, or as a rat catcher. Well, there was a rare rat catcher, did about the country wander. The sound displayed of all his trade, I would him deeply slander. And he would cry, rat-a-tat, rat-a-tat, terror-rat ever. To catch a mouse or to carouse such a ratter, I saw never. Upon a pole he carried full 40 fulsome vermin, whose cursed life without a knife to take did he determine. And he would cry, rat-a-tat, terror-rat ever. To catch a mouse or to carouse such a ratter, I saw never. He knew the nut of India that makes the magpie stagger, such mercuries and cantharies with arsenic and rosica. And he would cry, rat-a-tat, terror-rat ever. To catch a mouse or to carouse such a ratter, I saw never. He was so brave a Bowser, 'twas never wondered whether he taught them or the rats taught him to be drunk as rats together. Still he would cry, rat-a-tat, terror-rat ever. To catch a mouse or to carouse such a ratter, I saw never. Full often with a native, the juice of poppies drunk he, ate poison frank with a Monte bank and spiders with a monkey. And he would cry, rat-a-tat, terror-rat ever. To catch a mouse or to carouse such a ratter, I saw never. When he tripped this island from Bristol into Dover, with painful bag and painted flag to France he carried over. That, of course, being the abridged version. I'll leave the other 30-some-odd verses for you to look up yourself. From here, I'm going to jump to after Shakespeare's time to a Victorian broadside called The Rat Catcher's Daughter. In Westminster there lived a maid, a poor rat catcher's daughter. Though she wasn't born in Westminster, but on the other side of the water. Her father killed rats and she cried sprats all around the wharves and the water. And the gentle folk, they all bought sprats off the poor little rat catcher's daughter. Doodle-dee, doodle-dum, doodle-dum. Well, the gentle folk from miles around would marry her, all sought her, but her friends all vowed she turned up her nose to the poor little rat catcher's daughter. But there was a man cried Lily White Sands, in Cupid's net had caught her, and overhead and ears in blood, the poor little rat catcher's daughter. Doodle-dee, doodle-dum, dee-dum, doodle-dum. And so they vowed they'd marry me upon next Easter Sunday. But the rat catcher's daughter had a dream she'd not be alive come Monday. To buy some sprats once more she went, and tumbled into the water, straight down to the bottom, all smothered in mud, went the poor little rat catcher's daughter. Doodle-dee, doodle-dum, dee-dum, doodle-dum. When Lily White Sands he heard the news, his eyes ran down with water. Said him, my love, I'll constant crude blow me if I live long after. So he cuts his throat with a piece of glass, and he stabs his donkey after. So Donkey and Lily White Sands both died for love of a rat catcher's daughter. A doodle-dee, doodle-dum, dee-dum, doodle-dum. So you've come to Fugli for a tale. Well, you've come to the right place, and luckily you said your prayers. I'll tell you the tale of Paddy OMalley. See, it was a moonless night down by the docks, and Paddy, he was making his way to the pub, like he does every night, when he hears a voice in the distance. It's a cry for help. Sounds like a fair young maid. Where could she be in the dark? So he searches around. There are boats docked, there are ships out in the harbor, and there are many piers. And for quite a while he searches, stumbling in the dark, until he hears that voice loud and clear from below him. So he looks over, and partway down the pier he sees a maiden, and she is trapped in a fishing net. Well then, he grabs one of the ropes off the dock, he ties it around one of the cleats, and he starts letting himself down, and he notices that this maiden, well, she's beautiful from the waist up, but below that, she's a fish. I've never freed a mermaid, he says. Well, please, sir, I will be ever grateful. So, he makes short work of the net, and she plunges into the water. And she looks back up at him and says, thank you, sir. Says, then be on your way, lassie. Says, but sir, I am a magic mermaid, and you have freed me. I can grant you 3 wishes. 3 wishes? Oh, I don't know what I'd do with them. Well, try your best, and I will do my best to grant them. Well then, lassie, he thinks for a moment. And as he hauls himself up into the dock, he sits there and says, I would like a tankard filled with ale that will never empty. Well, that's easy, she says. And all of a sudden in his hand, there's a tankard. And it's filled with ale. It smells like the finest ale. He downs it, and it fills back up again. So he downs it again. And once again, it fills back up. Oh my goodness, this is wonderful, he says. And for your other 2 wishes, she asked. Oh, that's all right, lassie. I'll just take 2 more like this one. And that is the tale of Paddy O'Malley. And now it is time for me to tuck you in. This is rather erroneous version of the Spanish Armado, also known as 88, Sir Francis Drake. Was born, as I can well remember. In August was a fleet prepared that month before September. Spain escaped Portugal, Toledo, Santiago. It needs to form a fleet, and they called it the Armado. When they did take on provisions, as mustard, peas, and bacon. Some say 2 ships were full of whips, but I think that they were mistaken. Now there was a small man of Spain who shot well in a gun. Not Pedro Hyde as good a night as a night of the sun. To run away, the King of Spain did fret amain, and so to do more harm, he sent along to make him strong that fabled Prince of Parma. Now they sailed across the sea, they anchored on Dover. Those Spaniards over. Our queen, she was in Tilbury. What could you more desire? For whose sweet sake Sir Francis Drake did set those ships on fire. So let them look about themselves, if they should come again. They shall be served with that same sauce as they were, and I know when. Let's leave it here for now. This is from a couple of different broadsides and a little bit of other inspiration that I cobbled together. Many of the broadside verses would, well, they would steal from each other, or they would take a bit from here and a bit from there, and have marked similarities in not only the subject matter, but also the meter of the verses. So when you would find a couple of them, they might be actually to the same melody, or they might be entirely different melodies. You may notice that if you are familiar with broadsides, that many of the melodies that I use are my own, and I don't always take them from the original source, because I have a more modern ear, and sometimes the melody just doesn't sit right on my palate. Sometimes it does, so this is one of my own. 'Twas on a dark and cheerless night to the southern of the Cape, when from a strong nor'wester we had just made our escape. Like an infant in its cradle, each breeze was hushed to sleep, and peacefully we sailed along the bosom of the deep. At length our helmsman gave a shout of terror and of fear, as if he had just gazed upon some sudden danger near. The sea all round was cloud and foam, and just upon our lee we spied an apparition abounding o'er the sea. Take in your flowing canvas, lads, our watchful master cried. To us and our ship's company great peril doth betide. The billows crest with foam, all angry doth appear. The sea will seek to take us down, now Vanderdecken's near. We heard the moon bring that bow around, and let the Flying Dutchman gain the sighting of that sound. He scuds along too rapidly to mark his eagle's flight, and then light like the Dutchman's helm full soon is out of sight. The crews of ships far distant now shudder at the breeze that bears the Flying Dutchman in fury o'er the seas. Here comes the Flying Dutchman, light o'er the lofty spray, preceded by the tempest dire. He makes for Table Bay. With bird-like speed he's borne before the wind and howling blast. But ere he can cast anchor there, the bay, alas, is past. He cries, heave-ho the boom, to bring that bow around, and let the Flying Dutchman gain the sighting of that sound. Now mourn for Vanderdecken, for terrible's his doom. The ocean round that stormy cape, it is his living tomb. where the Dutchman beats about forever and a day, and tries in vain to keep his oath by entering Table Bay. Still he strides across the deck each night, enshrouded in the haze, inspecting bow to stern while port and starboard runs his gaze. Crew standing at the ready awaits the next command of Hendrik van der Decken, captain of the Dam. He cries, heave ho the boom, to bring that bow around, and let the Flying Dutchman gain a sighting of that sound. It was some years ago that Mark Gunn contacted me and wondered if I had songs about unicorns, and I suggested, well, there's the unicorn song. He says, I already got that one. Unfortunately for the podcast, I didn't get it written for another day, but I came up with this afterwards. Oh, maiden fair, why do you weep? Have you sat here for long? Oh, sir, I seek the unicorn, but I fear to do him wrong. The hunter's bow can ne'er him find, nor knife nor slithering sword, but maiden's virtue draws him near with song and soft spoken word. The open sky and budding field, fair Eden does he roam, to run the free and verdant land he travels far from home. So here I sit, awaiting still, in hope to glimpse his face. He's here but brief, with a tread fair light, then bolts without a trace. Should I but sit more softly thus, perhaps sing more liltingly, that he should return as a lover might, and longer stay with me. The open sky and budding field, fair Eden does he roam, to run the free and verdant land he travels far from home. So you'd be wanting a tale from Fugli. Well, luckily you've already said your bedtime prayers. Mickey Riley, he was in the pub the other evening. He sees a man there he's never seen before. This man looks like he's been in the wilds for some time, for he has a growth upon his face, and he has a bit of a smell to him, like he hasn't had a bath in days, weeks, months, who can tell? And he looks a bit down, Mickey notices, as he's staring into his ale there at the bar. So Mickey sidles up to him, not too close because of the smell, of course. He says, "Hey stranger, I haven't seen you in our parts before." "Aye," says the man, as he stares into his ale. "Well, what brings you by our parts?" asks Mickey. "So, I be hunting," says the man. "Hunting?" Well, what's your prey? Ah, says the man. I hunt unicorn. Unicorn? Mickey's face gets all big and round. Never seen a unicorn. How do you hunt one of those? Well, says the man, you must track the unicorn far and wide till you know where it's going to be. And then in a clearing in the woods, you must lay a snare. And in that snare, for bait, you must place upon a stool a virgin maid. And she must sing sweetly until the unicorn thinks that it is safe and there is no one else around. And it will come and lay its head in her lap. And then you spring your snare. Oh, says Mickey. It sounds quite intense. You know, I've never seen one of them around here before. They must be quite rare. Aye, and unicorns are not common as well. Now 'tis time for Fugli to tuck you in. One of the interesting things about broadsides, and we thought that Weird Al invented it, was that broadsides would often indicate a melody of a previous song, whether it was traditional or yet another broadside, to sing your song to. Sometimes there are original melodies, sometimes there weren't. That way, someone could pick up a broadside, make up their own melody, or they could look at what the melody was suggested, and they could sing it with their friends right on the spot if they wanted to. So, appropriating familiar melodies is one of those old traditions. Knights of old had their tribulations with dragons and monsters to tame. But what caused them the most consternation was when they encountered a dame. Now some were tormented by portents, and others by wages of sin. But the source of their woes was not of their foes, but rather a lady's chagrin. Now consider the plight of Sir Tristan, who was brave, strong, and handsomely bold. His career was pushed over a precipice when he shared drinks with Isolde. And Arthur's favorite Sir Gawain, tormented by Lady Birdlack, along with his auntie Morgan Le Fay, it's a wonder that he made it back. Now forget not Sir Balin the Salvage, beware women proffering swords. His virtue then led him to behead the lake lady there afterwards. And Lancelot was no choir boy, for Guinevere was the king's wife. And once they were caught, then Sir Lancelot thereafter knew nothing but strife. And Morgause was Arthur's half-sister, by Arthur a child begot. And when that child grew, his father he slew, and brought the end of Camelot. Not only were knights so endangered, it seemed that no man could be safe. For Merlin himself fell for an elf who trapped him inside of a cave. The lesson to my story before my song is all sung. For dragons and monsters charging me lads, at the sight of a damsel you run. Moving into the less traditional, and the more modern less traditional, I suppose, my newest CD is called Critter Myth, and it's patterned as if I were a broadside balladeer in a D&D campaign from my youth. So all of the references are from the Dungeon Master's Guide, pretty much. And and experiences that I had back in the 70s and 80s. So this one's called Baba Yaga's Hut. Baba Yaga had a hut that could walk up and down the street, balanced up on two strong legs. At the bottom were talon chicken feet. It comes lumbering down the path, you better get out of its way. Don't you know that if you don't, there'll be all 9 hells to pay? It staggers left, it stumbles right, you wonder if it'll attack. You're best to turn and run for cover when you see that chicken shack. Well, Wendell Jones took a trip out back to see a man about a griffin. They found him wide-eyed, drooling mad, gibbering about some chicken. It staggers left, it stumbles right, you wonder if it'll attack. You're best to turn and run for cover when you see that chicken shack. Ellen Smith was hanging clothes high above the street. When she reeled them back inside, they were printed with dirty chicken feet. It staggers left, it stumbles right, you wonder if it'll attack. You're best to turn and run for cover when you see that chicken shack. You never know when your number's up and it's headed right for you. But if it does, throw your fingers up, shout a hearty pluck you too. It staggers left, it stumbles right, you wonder if it'll attack. You're best to turn and run for cover when you see that chicken shack. Yeah, you're best to turn and run for cover, hug the ground, call for mother. You're best to turn and run for cover, Baba Yaga's chicken shack. I thought I'd end this on a little bit of a different and maybe even more modern note, but this is from that same collection. It's called Critter Myth. It's called The Deck of Many Don'ts. There's a reason we don't do it, just turn and walk away. Don't set a bad example for the innocents in play. Nothing good will come of it, no matter what you lost. The deck of many things, it's never worth the cost. You may think the world's against you as you wallow in despair. Perhaps you seek adventure, so you decide to draw a pair. The first may be a boon, like a gem, a star, or key. The next will be the void, with the utmost certainty. I heard about a ruler of a principality. He thought he'd take a gamble, so he approached it logically. If I take just one, he told himself, my chances will be few. He drew one card, then death appeared, and promptly ran him through. There's a reason we don't do it, just turn and walk away. Don't set a bad example for the innocents in play. Nothing good will come of it, no matter what you lost. The deck of many things, it's never worth the cost. Now drawing is a gamble, still think you haven't got enough. Know that we will miss you and appreciate your stuff. But if you're feeling wiser, rather than melee, just throw it at your enemy and promptly run away. There's a reason we don't do it, Thank you, and it's been a pleasure playing for you this day.